Again. So I thought I would show you the livestock here at Froghair Farm. So we've got now 7 hives of bees. We got this little nuke here we just started Friday, 2 days ago. And then that started as a nuke. That's a combined hive. These are 2 nukes that we just started this year. And then those 2 are producing honey this year. So if we get a decent fall flow, we might get honey out of these 4 this year. Who knows? Really depends on weather. So, but they're cranking along here. Those girls get out and they work early and they work hard all day long. They really just, I leave. I've got quite a bit of white clover around, and I don't mow from around the 1st of May till around the end of June, just because there's so many good resources out here that I just don't want to deny the bees that, of course. But I find beekeeping pretty fascinating, and it's fun for me to do anyway. I'll get you in here a little closer and show you kind of what's going on in the hives. So that's my newest little nuke. Basically, the queen in this nuke came from the left-hand white hive there. They had developed some swarm cells, and so we needed to do something with it. So we pulled a couple of frames of bees. The queen, we shook some bees in here, and we made us a new hive. We'll see how they get along. This one started the same way. I had another hive, ended up with 4 capped queen cells, so we pulled the queen, number of bees, shook a number of bees in, and these guys are going nice and strong. And my idea on this hive here and this one back here is I really want them to draw out some deep comb. So we've got 2 boxes obviously on there. Really the idea is to get some drawn comb out of these hives this year. If I can do that, I'm perfectly happy with them. They don't need to produce any honey. And this one, so I just number the hives. That's 1. This is now 2, 3. That's 3, 4, 5, 6, and now that'll be 7. So the reason this one's called 2, 3 is that I had a real strong hive. They were getting ready to swarm, pulled the queen, left queen cells, came back, and they had new queen. I was super happy. New queen swarms. So then I end up with a queenless hive, and then I had another swarmy hive, so I pulled a queen there. We end up combining those 2. That's a really nice strong colony right now. Basically, I would say there's probably a good solid 15 frames of bees in there at this time. So we'll see what happens. I want them to draw out a little bit of comb as well. I think they certainly have the ability to do that. This guy is an absolute honey monster, and these girls have just absolutely exceeded my expectations, because we've got 2 boxes, medium boxes of honey up there full. We'll probably be extracting that here in a week or 2. I gave them a medium box for brood, because that's all I had available at the time, and they needed the space, and the queen was laying like crazy. So we've got a good strong colony there, um, and those girls were going to swarm, and that's the queen that's in 2-3. The 3 part came from here, and the 2 part was the queenless colony there. So they continue just to bring in the nectar, and we've extracted a few frames and give them some space, and then you know, we're going from there. So these guys have done a fantastic job of drawing out medium frames, which is what I use for honey. And so got some nice new comb produced there, and both these colonies did that nicely. This one going well. So I started beekeeping last year, and without knowing a ton about it, many years ago, my grandfather kept bees, and always had kind of an interest in it. Always loved honey, so I decided to give it a shot. Well, the thing, if you're interested in beekeeping, the one thing that I will tell you is stay on top of the varroa mite parasite. I did not fully understand the destructive nature of those little pests, and I did not treat these colonies nearly as well as I should have, or as often as I should have. So we ended up with 2 dead outs. I had 3 colonies last year, 2 dead outs by midwinter, and then I had another colony survive, but became queenless really early in the spring, and I couldn't get them requeened. So when that happens, you've got no brood, the colony dwindles, and it's there you go. So this year, I'm being a lot more aggressive on mite treatment. The good news is, there's a number of essentially natural products that are quite effective on the mite populations, and so we're the only 2 hives that currently don't have a treatment in them are the 2 honey-producing hives. The other ones all have a treatment going, except for the nuke. I don't have anything in there yet. But as soon as we pull the honey off of those 2, we'll be starting a treatment regimen on them as well. So, because if we successfully overwinter these hives, then next year they'll be significant producers. So we'll see what happens. But the production all comes from this stuff. I mean, right now, largely it's the white clover is quite a nectar source. You see a couple of native bees down there now after it, and the so we we leave this grow, and it's been blooming now for quite a while. I was away for a few days, and I kind of expected it had been done by the time I got home, but it's still going pretty good. I'm pretty happy about that. Red clover on the native bees is useful, but not as good, just because the depth of the flower, the honeybee doesn't have quite a long enough tongue to be able to get all the nectar out of the red clover bloom. But it's still helpful. And then they visit over here a little bit. We'll get over here and show you another source right now. And that is this rough leaf dogwood, which smells awesome. But you know, we'll see them on here. I know they're grabbing pollen from these flowers, and if you're not familiar, pollen is their protein source and nectar is their carbohydrate. So they need both to survive. And you know, some plants are great pollen producers, and they utilize those a lot. Some are better in nectar, and they act accordingly. So another patch of white clover. We got quite a lot of it scattered around here. And then our little apple tree orchard, which I need to fence because the deer are just... Young apple trees and deer do not mix. Let's just say that. And then as we move along, so this little field here, it's a couple acres. And I've been planning to plant this into native species. I changed my mind. I think what we're going to end up doing here is primarily putting this into a variety of clovers and some native forbs mixed in. Get a little bit of variety and try to get a little longer time frame for bloom and so on. This is my experimental patch. So I had a bunch of native wildflower seed that's collected from different places. So I thought, well, I'll till this up. We'll see what happens. And I just tilled up the grass. And so I figured when I started, it may be a 50-50 chance of success. That might have been optimistic. However, I can definitely, we definitely have some germination on some of the native species. So that's good news. But I definitely am going to have a lot of grass in here. So we'll see how it goes. I really, you know, a lot of people suggest that you terminate all your grass with glyphosate, and I guess I'm reluctant to do that. So I'm trying to figure out a better strategy to try and get this grass terminated. And I'm leaning toward grabbing my Massey 180 in here with and moldboard plowing it, and then just disc it every so often through the summer season here and try and keep the grass at bay. But I don't know. I don't know if that's going to that'll be a successful strategy or not. I'd like to think it would be, but we'll see. That's part of why I did the little experimental plot. I'm just curious how, and that was not moldboard plowed. I was just effectively just rototilled 3 times. That's not going to be enough to do the job, I can tell you that. But I'll figure that out. So another patch of clover. You can see these seed heads are getting to the point where, you know, there's not we're getting to the end of the clover bloom here, and so some areas were, the early blooming areas are definitely starting to, dry down, which is also fine. I don't mind more clover seed dropping in here. But the rest of this, I need to make up my mind, but I won't do anything until we get pretty well done with whatever is going to bloom in this field. So anyway, well, I just thought I'd kind of show you the livestock operation here at Froghair Farm, and maybe it's of interest, maybe not. I don't know. I find it fascinating. And by the way, this crown vetch, they don't get much out of that. You look at it and you get excited because you're like, oh, you got a lot of bloom here. Surely that's a good thing. And not necessarily, not. Smells good. Boy, I will tell you that. It smells awesome. Wind's blowing across that. Man, it smells nice. So, I think they find a little interest in it. I just don't think they get a lot out of it. And so now the bumblebees are on it. Well, there's I don't know if you can see it in there. There's a honeybee on it. So they're getting some. The bumblebees definitely are. I can see several native bees out here, big ones and small. And then I wouldn't mind getting the dog bean. I'm not a fan of, but there's other native species, that kind of come up in this old pasture. Last year I didn't mow it all season, so till late fall, and then I just use a rotary cutter on it. But this year I definitely want to get into a situation where I can get I'm certain I can get a nice clover crop going and so on. So I'm very inclined to do that. I just like to terminate as much of the grass I can. I'd sure like to do it chemical free, just because these bees, if I'm spraying out here, these bees are going to touch that, and that will end up in those hives and in the honey. So I'm not very, unless I move the hives out, which I could certainly do. And I will move some of these. I will move out to the farm, just due to the fact that I got a ton of native forbs out there, and that blooms a little later in the summer, and tremendous amount of Maximilian sunflower and lots of other things. So I may move some or all of them out there for a couple months. If I did that, maybe chemical makes sense, but I just think the residual sticks around a long time, and I don't want to think about ingesting it. So, but I definitely have to do a better job of terminating grass than what you see here. So, we'll see how this goes. This might get these seedlings up a little better. 3, 4, 8 inches even, and then mow it high. We might have a chance of some kind of success. But I'm thinking we want to take a little different approach on the rest of this, and so I think I don't know. I'm leaning toward bringing the moldboard in here, turning it, let it lie for a while, and then give it a good disking, and then just every couple of weeks, frankly, come in and disc it again, and keep it brown until fall, and then get it planted. So anyway, well, this is long-winded, I know, but we'll give you a close-up of the bees before we leave. See what's going on over here. These two. They're fascinating to watch. You can see some bees are standing in front of the entrance there. I'll keep it here, the white hive, fanning their wings. Well, that's they're ventilating their hive that way, controlling their temperatures. And they're working. See some pollen coming in. If you watch carefully, on their hind legs, they'll have pouches or packets of pollen on there. There's a big bunch right there. Then the nectar, when they bring nectar in, they'll pass that to a bee inside, and that bee will take it where it needs to go. When they have pollen, they just go directly to the location in the hive where the pollen is getting stored at the time. So a fair amount of pollen coming in, actually, and no surprise there. Yep. They use that to feed themselves and the brood, make the royal jelly and worker jelly for the larvae. So they're cranking along. Love to see it. Just fascinating animals. And the management's interesting. And it's an interesting process. And I feel like I'm starting to get some things right. So anyway, thank you very much, and we'll talk to you again sometime, and talk to you a little bit more about bees and equipment if you're interested, because I've definitely had some experience and some opinions on that. So based on what I know now, have a good one.